Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is Halos and Heroes. As you know, this is a mental health and recovery channel first and foremost. It always has been. And as wildly popular as Tim Minchin is, and the amount of reactions that everyone seems to do, I want to bring a BBC News interview with him to the channel about his writing, rejection, and mental health is the title of it. I haven't seen this. I'm curious to see this side of him, the interview side of him. I've seen the graduation speech. I've seen most of his music. But now I want to see the mind behind the mind, if you will. So without further delay, this is Tim Minchin on his writing, rejection, and mental health during a BBC interview.
There's not a lot of texts that can sort of hold the weight of a musical. If you're going to have characters break into song and tell you about how they feel, I mean, we all know it can be really sort of cheesy and a little bit, as Australians say, daggy. And so I'm very interested in these sort of texts that ask big questions, like Matilda, like, how do you escape oppression, and how do you stand up to bullies, and what do you do if you don't have love? Where do you find love? What is family if your family's broken? Where do you find a family?
Groundhog Day. It opened here, I think I'm right in saying, in 2016, at the Old Vic, where we are talking to you now.
My favourite theatre in the world, yeah.
It's stunning. Mm-hmm. You then took it to Broadway.
Yeah, Broadway, lovely, warm, cuddly Broadway.
Well, that's interesting that you describe it like that, because some of the reviews were incredible. A Hollywood Reporter described it like this: Groundhog Day is a delirious reinvention with its own defiantly unique personality and relentless forward-backward spin that leaves you smiling, exhilarated and giddy. The New York Times described you as insanely talented, and yet for various reasons it closed early. What effect did that have on you?
It's hard not to feel like you failed or that you've been rejected. Probably it's more that, and Broadway can make, especially outsiders, non-Americans, it can really make you feel like you've been slapped down.
This is a huge Broadway musical by a very, very talented, popular artist with rave reviews getting shut down early. Keep that in mind. In our day-to-day lives, we go through microcosms of this exact same feeling. We suggest an idea at work and it gets shot down. We feel like a failure. And the hardest thing for me to reconcile has always been the perfection side of myself. When I started looking into the concept of progress over perfection and realizing that a mistake is not a failure, and that an idea, a concept, even lauded initially, may not always succeed in the end, but that doesn't mean that we didn't do our part. I didn't do my part to contribute. I am not responsible for the success or failure of the entire group project. I am just a piece of it. And if I put my best into it, then all I can take away from that is the fact that it may not have been the project everyone wanted, but I know I did my part, and I can be comfortable in that. I can be okay with that.
It actually put a chip on my shoulder, I think, and it's the worst attribute in a person as lucky as me, to be chippy. But I already have a bit of a chip because it took me till I was about 30 for anyone to employ me at all, which included every agent in Australia, saying no, and so I was already a bit like, I'm all right, and then when you take a couple of hits, and you lose a lot of time, it made me quite cross. But of course, you're constantly going, what are you cross about?
I mean, you've achieved phenomenal success, but you are still driven. What is motivating you?
Well, I think it's just habit. So when when Groundhog Day closed on Broadway, and not being dramatic about that effect, but it did make me feel sort of bit, I don't know, like more down than I'd felt for a while.
Are you happy right now?
Pretty good, yeah. Really.
See, knowing your worth, knowing my worth, has been another element of myself that I have always struggled with. When I use I statements on this channel, it's not meant to be narcissistic. I am simply speaking from the heart. I'm not a doctor or a therapist, and I'm not trying to provide advice. I'm trying to share my experience with my audience based on me. Because I can't speak for you. I can't elaborate on your issues because they're yours. If you share them with me, then we can talk about it. But I won't speak for you. And I know that even in my greatest successes, I have felt less than simply because my self-worth. I felt like, yeah, I did a great job, but oh well, whatever. And I have worked really hard to progress that idea that I am worth something. Asking him if he's happy. Happiness to me is fleeting. We have these finite moments in life where I feel that if we just grasp those finite moments and we store those up instead of holding on to all the negativity, that we would be far more at peace.
Really good, and actually, like,
is it hard to say that? Yeah, I'm happy.
well, it's hard to say it because it's 2023 and I'm a straight white dude, and what I'm meant to say, and I feel it as well, as I'm privileged, and there's certainly a sense of like...
You've got to choose your language.
Yeah, you don't want to say but that's also just my upbringing. I mean,
Yeah.
it feels smug to go, yeah, nailing it, you know. And also, I really believe in people being honest, and there's nothing more sort of nauseating than a privileged, wealthy person going, yeah, it's hard. And I don't think it's very hard, but I do think the human condition, and this is what Groundhog Day is about, is happiness is not the natural state. I don't think it ever was in our evolution. I think it's a relative state.
I want to ask you, you are obviously a master.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was trying to say. Happiness is a relative state. And he's right. Being a straight white male in 2023 is, by today's politically correct standards, the lowest that I can be. As you guys know on this channel, I have toned down some of my language, but that's just me growing. That's nothing to do with anything else. But I am also not afraid to state my opinion, whether it's right, wrong, indifferent, or may offend someone. Because honestly, freedom of speech in this country is the bedrock of this country. So hurting people's feelings may happen. It's not intentional, it's not malicious. But if we tiptoe around everything, everywhere, every single day, trying not to offend someone, then we might as well just lock ourselves in a white room somewhere, or a colorless room, somewhere, and that way we don't offend anyone.
Master of
What?
words, the way you speak, the way you write. And just a moment or two ago, you said, oh, but I also have to say I'm privileged, I'm this, I'm that. Can I ask you what you think about the policing of language when it comes to writing lyrics, books, comedy?
I think the main thing we all need to get better at is sitting in ambivalence. And part of the problem with how we police behaviour and language is it doesn't allow for much ambivalence. It's can be very prescriptive.
It could lead down the road to you potentially being cancelled. Is that what you're worried about?
Oh yeah, I'm worried about being cancelled. The language is hopeless though, so again, there has to be ambiguity, there has to be ambivalence in every conversation. My super progressive lefty friends who say there is no such thing as cancel culture, it's just powerful people getting what they deserve. I mean, that is gaslightingly naive. That is...
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. The reason that ambiguity and ambivalence succeed in language is because at times it can draw a debate or a conversation that invokes deeper insight. If all we talk about is the surface level depictions of current culture, then it's not even really a conversation. It's just two people talking at each other with no insight and no balance. There's no debate, there's no insight, there's nothing meaningful that comes from that conversation. I also believe in a concept called respond, don't react. And what that is while that other person is talking to you, don't be formulating your response immediately. Don't just react the way that with exactly how you feel right then and there. Take a moment to really process what it is that they are telling you so that you can absorb that. And maybe you don't even need to respond. Maybe they just need someone to listen to them.
If you still think that, you're as bad as a climate denier. If you don't think there's a problem with call-out culture or public shaming, I prefer to talk about public shaming, for all people, for women and people of colour, and it's not working the way you... If you think it's just working on old, rich, stale, pale male dudes, you're not looking at the world. People are hurt by public shaming when they don't deserve to be. All day, every day. And it's grotesque. And it's psychopathic, and it requires that you don't stand in another person's shoes. I don't have any secrets. I'm not going to get cancelled because I don't. There's no skeletons in my closet. Some of my comedy hasn't aged particularly well, but I mean, if we haven't figured out that that's a truth yet, then,
But it doesn't.
Very valid argument. Very valid point. So I believe honesty and transparency are the best medicine. I believe that by being honest, by being transparent, that we're not hiding anything from anyone. What we choose to expose of ourselves is up to us in that moment. But if somebody asks me a direct question about something that's happened in my life, I will not shy away from it or try to find a polite way to answer it or a way that skirts maybe some of the issues around it. I'm just going to talk about it. And people around me know this, and they know to be, if they don't want to talk about certain topics, they already know that I'm honest, transparent, upfront. Yeah, I have boundaries and I have realistic expectations of people, but I don't hold back. And I think that's why I identify with Tim and his music and his methods as much as I do, is because he's not afraid to say what everyone else is thinking. He brings issues that need to be discussed to the surface. And that's going to hurt some people's feelings. That's going to offend people. But is it wrong? Is what he's saying off base? No. And regardless of right, wrong, or otherwise, it's him. It's his opinion, his writing. And who are we to tell anyone else what their truth should be? Don't force anything on anyone else. That's my biggest problem. I understand what you're saying. I hear you. I can feel that. But if I don't automatically accept that, or I'm not willing to compromise myself in that regard, excuse me, I tried to get away from the microphone. But if I'm not willing to sign on the dotted line, don't then cancel me and tell me, well, if you don't believe it, then you're this, this, and this.
It affects you when you're writing now,
Well, not
in
really, because
2023.
I'm done. I was done with satire anyway. I've moved on. So no, it doesn't.
Okay.
People go, did you give up comedy because you're scared of being cancelled? I'm like, no, I gave up comedy because I did it. It was amazing.
Tim Minchin, thank you very much for talking to Newsnight.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much and good luck.
That was genuinely a very classy interview from Tim Minchin. Wow. I started watching him years ago when he was still in that satire. And to see him now and how well polished he is, and I definitely loved the stuff that he did for the Sydney Opera House, the 50th anniversary. That was really cool. Shameless plug, that's also on my channel. But if you're here to the end, thank you. I appreciate it. This is Halos and Heroes. I love you. I care. You are not alone. Thank you for being here.